Carry on. Carry on, have a seat.
Good morning, distinguished guests, friends, Hampton University alumni, Pirate Battalion alumni, members of the Hampton University faculty and staff, service members, veterans, and members of our supporting organizations. Welcome to Hampton University's military panel. Before we begin, please join me in a moment of silence for all service members and veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice and are unable to join us today. Thank you. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you to today's panel, and we thank each of you for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. This morning's panel is made up of alumni, veterans, and service members who are continuing to provide unwavering service to the country. We are joined today by Lieutenant General Retired Darrell K. Williams, an alumnus of Hampton University, class of 1983. Lieutenant General Williams graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology and was commissioned through the Pirate Battalion into the Active Duty Army Quartermaster Corps. Prior to taking the helm as president of Hampton University, Lieutenant Julian Williams capped off 37 years of meritorious military service as a director of the Department of Defense's Defense Logistics Agency. Thank you, President Williams. Lieutenant General Xavier T. Brunson, an alumnus of Hampton University, class of 1990. Lieutenant General Brunson graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science and was commissioned through the Pirate Battalion as an active duty infantry officer. Lieutenant General Brunson is currently the commanding general of 1st Corps in Joint Base Lewis-McChord, Washington. Thank you, Lieutenant General Brunson. Brigadier General Janine L. Burkhead, an alumnus of Hampton University, class of 1991. Brigadier General Burkhead graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science and was commissioned through the Pirate Battalion as a chemical officer in the Army Reserves. After 3 years, she received an appointment to the Maryland Army National Guard and is currently the Assistant Adjutant General. And in her civilian capacity, Ms. Burkhead serves as a senior advisor in the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration at the Department of the Interior in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Brigadier General Burkhead. Rear Admiral M.W. Joe Raymond, a native of Williamsburg, Virginia, and graduated with honors from the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in 1991. Rear Admiral Raymond currently serves as the Commander, Coast Guard Force Readiness Command, responsible for 41 subordinate units in 17 states, impacting every Coast Guard mission to deliver mission-ready forces, superior performance-based training, career development, education, leader development, and readiness assessments. Thank you, Rear Admiral Raymond. And Commander Robert S. Clements, an alumnus of Hampton University, class of 1988. Commander Clements graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management and received his commission from the Hampton University Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps program. Commander Clements served in the military for over 22 years, serving on various staffs and positions, but is now employed at Suitland High School in Forestville, Maryland as a director and senior naval science instructor. Thank you, Commander Clements. We thank each of you for taking the time to be a part of today's panel. You all have led very successful careers, each in very unique ways, and we thank you for all of your continued service. So beginning, could you all tell us a little bit about your career path and kind of where you think the military is headed?
Let me get started. So first of all, welcome to everybody. And before we go much further, I think it's important for us to hear from our two senior-most Pirate Battalion graduates that are in the audience today. And sirs, it's a real honor to have you all here. And I can't think of a better way to kick this off by having you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your story before we talk about our stories. And so I would ask you all to give a round of applause to our senior-most Hall of Fame Hampton Pirate graduates here on the front row. Let's give them a round of applause. Sir, you mind if you could just scoot forward there, maybe? Okay, all right.
Takes a little time.
That's okay. We got time. We got time. There you go.
Good morning. I'm Major General Arthur Holmes, Jr., class of 1952.
Have a seat.
It does my heart good to see the number of cadets that are here today. When I attended Hampton, we had a regimental capacity ROTC. I came in the Army to spend 3 years. I spent 35. And I did not want to be an Army guy, but I'll tell you, don't give it up. Think about it. There are a lot of things to do. I commanded 3 battalions, one in Vietnam. Wally Arnold and I spent time, I as the executive officer, first black executive officer, to the Secretary of the Army. And coming right behind me as the executive officer for the Undersecretary of the Army was Wally Arnold. When they asked me about Wally, I said, he's a good Hampton man. And I hope I can say that about each one of you. You're a good Hampton person. And I just want to tell you that it's an honor for me to be here. The last time I was here, your president was making a presentation, and he and Lieutenant General Farrell, and I was quite amazed at them, and I knew they were going places. But just to not belabor this, thank you very much for having me here. Go Hampton. Now the problem of getting up.
By the way, he's a mere 92 years young. 92. So we should all be so fortunate. Sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a great opportunity every single day because I can drive by here and say, hello, Mr. President, all the time, and which is a great honor. And Mr. President, congratulations, and we're all so proud and pleased that you are here. And I'm going to take a second just to tell a story. First of all, I'm Wallace Arnold. I live down the street here, and so I can stop by here and say hello anytime that I'd like, probably more times than the president would ever want. So one of the things that you do is that you keep your head on straight, and you know that the president is not there to serve you. He's there to run the university and not worry about other folks that can poke around. I'm delighted to be here this morning and to also be a Hamptonian. And having, I graduated from Hampton in 1960 and served 34 years in our Army on active duty. And one of the other little things that came along in my direction is that I had the chance to be a university president, and that's Cheney University in Pennsylvania, for about four years. Up there after doing some other things. And one of the things that it's very important to remember that if you are a Hamptonian and you have a chance in life to do a lot of things, Hamptonians have an awful lot of chances to do something and to do things that are useful. And Mr. Sears I'll probably bump into you somewhere else. And I'm going to say, do you remember that there was one day an old guy showed up and he said, Hamptonians have a chance to do a lot of things. And so I'm just pointing the finger at you right now, because I'll remember and as we have a chance to move about. But the thing that makes us all feel so good and so proud is that we have a lot of opportunity and we take advantage of it. And all the youngsters that are sitting behind me are just wonderful men and women who've taken chance at what they've, good opportunity with the chances that they have had. So we are, and one of the things that's so very important is that you never break the friendship and relationship and the good things that you can do. As General Holmes and I worked in the Pentagon together, but not only that, we worked each other's houses together, and our families became friends, and that sort of thing. So we were all back and forth doing a lot of things together. We want to hear from folks that are much younger than Holmes and Arnold, but don't ever give up on us. And don't mess with us. We're always going to be around. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to be with all of you today and to have a chance to sit here and listen to some of the wonderful things that you will say, questions that you will ask, what have you. Where is General Harrison? You know, and then one of the other things that'll happen as well is there'll always be some of us that'll always be poking around with each other. And General Harrison is Howard University commissionee some years ago, and he lives here. He and his wife. His wife is a vice president here for General Williams. And so so thank you, Mike, and for being here today with the rest of us. The thing that I'm trying to point out is that we're always going to be around. Hampton is going to be somewhere doing something that's very useful. And don't ever forget that, Mr. Hughes, that you're going to have a chance every day as a Hamptonian to do something that's useful. And don't ever be caught sitting down somewhere and somebody say, where are you from? I'm from Hampton and I'm a Hamptonian. Well, I don't think you are, because why are you sitting down if you're a Hamptonian? So we're up and moving and doing things all the time. And so it's just wonderful to be here. And I'm going to sit down and shut up because I can run like a mule.
Gentlemen, thank you again, and also to General Harrison for being here in the back of the room. All these from Howard University. We are all connected in spirit by our military service. Let's give all of our distinguished general officers a round of applause. Thank you. I'll give my summation in about a minute or so. I think the real the thing we're trying to get at here is to answer your questions and comments, and so I'll be brief. Again, Lieutenant General Darrell Williams, native of West Palm Beach, Florida, graduated from Hampton University, received my pirate battalion, a commission out of the pirate battalion in 1983, spent 37 years in the military as a logistics officer. Assignments pretty much all over the United States, Asia, Europe, Middle East, and culminated at Defense Logistics Agency at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And for those of you who think that the military is only about the tactical side of things, I culminated my career at Defense Logistics Agency, a $40 billion revenue agency providing global logistics around the world. And with that, I turn it over to our newest 3-star general from Hampton University, someone with whom we are so proud, and we're looking to climb even higher, Lieutenant General Xavier Brunson, Corps Commander.
Thank you, Mr. President. President. My name is Xavier Brunson. I graduated from Hampton University in 1990. Hello, Kevin. I've got a bone to pick with you because I found out that you're retiring on the 9th of December, and I'll be in Japan at that time. So I'm actually quite salty. If you all can just imagine me running from here, knocking all the chairs apart to punch him in the nose, that's the way I feel right now, that I have to miss that event. But I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I played football in Hampton, poorly. I pledged Omega when I was here. This is my home chapter, and this is my home campus. I never thought that I would be sitting here in front of you all today. And that speaks to what all the gentlemen have talked about. That's the possibilities that you have resident in you right now for all the things that you could do, regardless of whether you're in the Coast Guard or the Marine Corps or the Navy or whatever you do, to be able to do it in such a way that you might be able to come back here with that. Thank you.
As part of your introduction.
Hi, good morning. Janine Burkhead, and I never thought that General Brunson would be sitting here either.
Wow.
Yeah, we got some stories. So we were together for the years that he was here, and I'm a 91 graduate of Hampton and the Pirate Battalion. And I will tell you that I did enjoy my time in Hampton. Learned a lot and was challenged every day. But I will tell you that I am so pleased to see so many women in the crowd. I hope you all stick with it, and please feel free to contact me because it is about sponsorship and mentorship. Now you'll get mentoring, but that sponsorship is where this comes in to get you in the door and get you where you need to go. So you do the right thing, we'll do that. I'm the commander of the Maryland Army National Guard. I've been the commander there since 2018, and I'm also the Deputy Commanding General at the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle. And I do have a civilian career. I'm currently at the Department of Interior. I've been on active duty for the last 2 years, though, 2.5 years away from that job because of civil unrest and because of COVID operations. Back to civil unrest and some COVID operations. So I was fortunate to be able to take the time away from my job to command those things and to work with COVID and the DC, the insurrection in DC. I was the task force commander there. And that's one thing about the National Guard. When it comes to defending the homeland, that is the responsibility of the National Guard. And we do it well. So when I mentioned COVID operations across the 54, it was the National Guard standing up mass vac sites and then standing up COVID vaccine sites to get people vaccinated. Those were the National Guard. We moved in Maryland over 60 million pieces of PPE and gave hundreds of thousands of shots and tests across the country. We were the first, led by me, the first task force in the entire country to have an operational task force to actually get vaccine into the communities. And that was called the Vaccine Equity Task Force. Worked very closely with the White House. They were behind me all the time, like, what you gonna do next, General Burkhead? Like, this is where we're going. And then the governor came to see me and he said, Janine, I got another opportunity for you. And I said, what's that, sir? And that was when I went in to do the Vaccine Equity Task Force. But before that, I was in DC after the insurrection. Maryland National Guard was the first National Guard on the ground to guard the Capitol. And we were there through the inauguration to ensure the peaceful transfer of power. 16,000 soldiers, a division-size element. Never thought I'd command that many, but General Brunson helped make sure I was ready to do that. With all the confidence in the world, and as you know, peaceful transfer of power on the day of that inauguration. But I would encourage you to consider the National Guard or a reserve commission and what the reserves can do for you, because you can run a dual track career, a civilian career, while still serving in the Army or another service, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. You can do that at the same time and still have a fulfilling military career. I will tell you, the training that you get in the military will set you up above your peers when it is time to get promoted in those civilian jobs. And so that's the beauty of it. You are always going to be ready, always prepared. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll pass the mic.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Joe Raymond. I'm representing the Coast Guard here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The Coast Guard has had a great reputation, a great relationship with Hampton University for more than 30 years. In fact, a friend of mine, Michael Platt, from the class of 1992, recently pinned on Rear Admiral in the U.S. Coast Guard. He's the first Hampton grad to be a flag officer in the Coast Guard. But I had the opportunity to serve with him in 93 to 95 down in Puerto Rico. And we became friends then, and we've been friends ever since. And I wish he could be here today because I think you'd learn a lot from him. But he's currently the military advisor to the Secretary of Homeland Security, and is just a little bit busy.
Small job.
But I'm a native of just north of Williamsburg, so I know this area well. I went to the Coast Guard Academy, and I've been serving now for about 31 years. And people ask me what brought me in. What brought me in was, number one, I wanted to serve the missions of the United States Coast Guard, which are, very varied. But also, I needed to pay for college, which I think is what we're all facing. But I thought I'd only stay 3-5 years, something like that. But what kept me in was being able to serve and the people that I served with. And I think what you'll find, and what I found in the United States Coast Guard, we have the absolute best people in our country. And that's true across all the armed services. When you look to your left and you look to your right, you see people with those core values that you want to serve with. People who serve honorably, who respect each other, and are devoted to duty. And so that's why I continue to serve. I've been very fortunate to serve all across the country. I've served on 4 ships. Most recently, I was the chief of our congressional affairs up in Washington, playing with some of the challenges that General Burkhead was talking about. But currently, I'm the commander of our Force Readiness Command, and I'm responsible for training and education throughout the Coast Guard. And for me, it's an opportunity to give back and make sure that the young men and women today get the training and education they need to be as successful as I've been. Thank you again for having me here today.
Good morning, I'm Commander Clements. Clements my nickname that came here. I'm experiencing a little post-traumatic stress syndrome right now. The last time I set among 8 stars was when I was in Naval Central Command in the Middle East and the Pentagon. So General, Admiral, this is different. I feel like I'm back in the field. I'm from a small town, Henderson, North Carolina, 30 miles east of Durham, North Carolina. I pledged Alpha while I was here.
Good man.
That's why I had to mention it. My major here was business. Actually, I started off being a computer science major, lasted about 45 days, changed my major to business. I was not on ROTC scholarship while I was here because I did not want to take calculus and physics, and I have no shame of that. I served in the Office of Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Naval Central Command, Defense Logistics Agencies where I closed out my career, and I also served on the Expeditionary Staff in Williamsburg, Virginia. For the last 13 years, this is my 14th year, I've been at Suitland High School in Forestville, Maryland, with cadets, as many as 310 cadets while I was there. And I will tell you that it's been the most honorable opportunity to serve youth. I've somewhat dedicated my life to serving youth, and that just means so much to me because I know where I started from, I know the path that I traveled, I know where I am today, and I see the future in you all.
So, Rear Admiral Raymond, you spoke a little bit about what made you pursue the military as a career. So, for some of you other panel members, what made you pursue the military, and especially going the officer route as opposed to enlisting?
Well, interesting you said that. I actually enlisted first. I followed my best friend who was enlisting, but my mother always wanted me to go to college, and I kind of like waited till the last minute, right before turning 18, right before graduating, and telling her I was in fact enlisting. And a short story, in my household, to this day, you're not allowed to say sir or ma'am. You know, when I say ma'am and joking with my mother, I make sure I'm about 50 yards away, throw a shoe at me. My mother had a very difficult time, and she said experiencing young kids white kids, in fact, tell my grandfather, I'll have my grandfather tell them, sir and ma'am. My mom said she always believed that we would never say sir and ma'am. So it was kind of interesting. My uncle went in the military, was in the Vietnam era, and my grandmother didn't want anyone to serve in the military after that, but I was going to military. I was enlisting. And my mother, the recruiter, was there in the trailer parking lot area. And my mother said, Lord, you have to go to college. And I said, Mom, I'm enlisting. And she said, well, is there anything else he can do? The recruiter, who was a family friend, actually said, I won't get credit, but I'll take him to the reserve center and enlist, and he can still go to college. That was the compromise. It wasn't until 3 months later when I completed boot camp, I was standing here in my sailor outfit, General. I was standing out there, all proud in my sailor outfit, registering, and 3 midshipmen walked across in this khaki uniform. And at 18, 19 years old, I'm like, what is going on? 3 weeks later, I'm in that uniform on Thursday. That's uniform day, right? So I'm in that uniform, and 1 week in a month, I'm wearing an enlisted uniform at the Reserve Center in Norfolk. I was like, my mother knew something. She knew something I didn't know, because I really did not know what I was doing. Fast forward 4 years later, I get my commission, and my grandmother didn't want me to be in the military, and I was still kind of uncomfortable. But when I got my commission on the stage and she saw who I was among, I went to the car and she blessed me. Go forward. And then I took off. I was not a good student here. When I say not a good student, I wasn't a good midshipman. I was a great student. I was a great student, but not a good midshipman, because I was focused. I had to work. I'd been in reserves, college work study, Navy ROTC, and I was getting myself out of my neighborhood, to be quite honest with you. A lot of times now when you go to screen for these programs, they don't want you to say that you join the military for the money. I'm gonna tell you straight up, and I can say this now, I was joining for opportunity, access, and money. My mother and my father was earning $19,000 together. I lived with my grandmother, who was earning like $3,000, $4,000. I was able to come to Hampton University off my grandmother's income. I have no shame. I'm unapologetic about how I ended up here. Hampton changed my life, no doubt about it. That's why I'm dedicated to Hampton right now. It changed my life. I have several students here, one sitting right there on the end, who I myself don't believe Naija Parks is sitting here. But I did what? I supported her, and that's what it's all about, supporting and caring. And that's what we need to get Hampton back on track. I will tell you all right now, General Williams has been a blessing to the university. The whole dynamic of the campus, changing the culture. And when you get out there in the field, culture and climate is key. Supporting and caring is key. And that's what you have with General Williams right here, right now. Changing the whole dynamic, changing the whole culture. And for me to be sitting on this stage right now is unparalleled at this stage of my career. So I want you all to think about that. Think about leadership when you go forward. Think about caring and supporting your troops, putting them first. Not yourself first, putting the troops first. And you will excel through your troops. It is so true. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Train your weak people to be strong, and you become a better team.
So I had an ROTC scholarship, 4-year ROTC scholarship here, and that was my mother giving me a bet. You can't do it. I'm like, you're right, Mommy, I don't want to do that. And she said, well, just give it a try. So I gave it a try, and I called her every day, boo-hooing. You know, General Brunson is picking on me. Mommy, I can't do this. We got to do PT. But fortunately, you know, through the support, Colonel Van was there through my whole tenure here, was able to make it through. But it was just fortunate enough that, again, a parent, my mom saw something in me that I didn't see. You can do this, Janine. So that's how I ended up here. It was no doubt I was coming to Hampton because that's a family thing. But then the ROTC part just added a piece to it.
Yeah. So one thing I would talk about is it's one thing to be where you all are sitting at today, and I would ask, if you're a contracted cadet, raise your hand. So everyone in here is not contracted. To tell you quite honestly, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you do from here, okay? So if you're not contracted and you want to become contracted and you want to stay with the Pirate Battalion, I would tell you that there was something that was built in me when I was a student here that said, I've got to do better. I've got to do better. Because I was ashamed to come back to this university. And we used to be in this place called the Barn. Okay, there were 400 of us at the Barn. And that was our battalion. That was the Pirate Battalion, 400 cadets. Okay, 400 of us on the field. Could you imagine that? 400. And we were told to get out on campus and find other people that wanted to be with us, because we were leaders across the whole of the university. And so why I wanted to serve was because I felt as if I always had to prove something. Okay? So when I got on active duty and I said, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to be an infantry officer. I wanted to be the absolute best infantry officer I could be because of what I learned here at Hampton University. Because I never wanted anybody to see General Arnold or anyone else that I knew and say, that guy is not good at what he said he was going to do. I didn't want to reflect on this place in such a way that people would think less of it. Another thing, I always wanted to walk away from this university after having been an ROTC student here, always able to think that because of my experiences, I was not less than, I was equal to. Didn't even want to be greater than anybody else or any other source of commissioning. I wanted to always carry myself as if I was equal to the people that were around me, the challenges that I was set by, that were set before me, and equal to the challenge of bringing, some light back to this university, to this place. And I stood next to a lot of folks and served with a lot of people and was taught by a lot of great people like Mr. Dickinson back there. Sir, it's good to see you again. But I never wanted to bring shame on this university or those that were counting on me. People talk about the folks left and right of you in service, but really what it comes down to is this recognition that you're not going to achieve anything of significance by yourself. And when I look at the people that I commissioned with, T. Ham, I was able to say, I don't want to ever let those people down. And that's what I really got. That's what drove me. So why did you serve? Well, I served because people that I got commissioned with were still serving. And I didn't want to let them down, so I just kept going. And then you go to sleep and you wake up one day and you don't have the hair that you had, okay? And you find yourself in the Army for 32 years at this point in time. I never planned that. I was going to get out as a captain. Glad I didn't, because Burkhead needs me. So I have to keep pressing. You all need me to do the right thing. You need to see that.
I'm going to pull that thread that he's saying because it is so true. We are pulling on each other. Like, he can do that? Wait a minute. I can do that too. Like, wait a minute. I see him over there. I'm going to do that too. And so just reaching back and watching and looking, if you can, I can touch it, right? Like, I know you can do that. You don't have to touch it.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, you can do that. And so I think that's really important. And the other golden thread I want to, at HBCU, you are not other than. And I work with Morgan a lot, Morgan and Maryland, Morgan State, with their ROTC program. We work with them a lot. And what we're building is trying to build confidence in those ROTC cadets. When they go to camp, they are representing not just Morgan, but the HBCU enterprise as officers. And so we want to make sure that you have the confidence and you go in and you can do the best you can do. I know when General Brunson or Colonel Van, when I was about to go to advanced camp, oh Lord, please let her go and do well, right? Like, she's representing, and that's the same thing we want for you all to have that confidence. And you're not other than. When you go, you are representing him, you're representing me, you're representing the ROTC family that went and persevered, and you can do the same, so.
So I'll talk about how I got here. Although I come from a family of primarily enlisted individuals who served. My grandfather was in World War I and World War II. My dad was in World War II. My uncle was in World War II. My brother was in Vietnam. My sister served during the Vietnam era. One of my brothers was in the Guard at the same time. So I come from it, but I really didn't know anything about the military when I came to Hampton University. I came here from West Palm Beach, Florida, And I came from a family of 9 children. And much like some of our other panel members, I had enough money to get through 1 year. 1 year. And it was very clear to me that when I left home, it was up to me to find a way to stay in school. And ROTC was that way. And so I, like the others, only planned to spend my 4 years paying back my scholarship and ended up spending 37. But what I will tell you about is this, and I'll, since a lot of those points have already been made, I'll try and make a different point. And so I know that there is an attitude within our community often, and also within our world, about why should you serve in the military? You know, why should you serve? And so for me, it comes down to this. As I think about that grandfather that I told you about, who was born in 1898 and served in World War II, I think about what the times in our nation were like in the 1920s and what they were like in the 1940s and the 1970s. And I think about what the times in our nation were like during World War II, when black soldiers came back from the war, and when they came back from Vietnam, and they weren't welcomed at home. And yet, they found a way to continue to be patriotic. And so I often ask myself the question, are things so different today than they were then? And if my grandfather, who was 100 years before me, could be patriotic during his times, what makes me think that I don't have the responsibility to serve? And so, and every generation in America, someone has to serve. This idea of freedom, it is not free. But we all have a responsibility to promote those freedoms that we all enjoy. And in every generation, some young men and young women have to stand up and provide that service for the rest of the nation to enjoy. We all take it for granted that when you played soccer on the soccer field in high school, or you went to a football game, or even the one that we're going to go to out here in the stadium today, we take for granted the peace and security required for us to go sit in the stands, enjoy the game, and wave our arms. But all of these people up here have been that are on this stage and sitting in the audience, many have been in places where that can't be taken for granted. And when you go to a public space, you're looking over your shoulder, and you're wondering whether or not you're going to come out alive. We've all been to those places. But that's the freedom that you will ensure when you serve as a member of the armed forces. And I, for one, would do it all over again. But I didn't come to the ROTC program understanding and realizing that. The last point I'll make is this. This thing that at Hampton, you see our motto called the standard of excellence. I had no idea what that simple phrase would mean to me in my life. And much like what General Brunson talked about, in my entire career within the military, now even here at Hampton University, that phrase, the standard of excellence, and trying to live up to it, has always resonated with me. I tried to do my best in every single job that I had, because in the back of my mind, I'm rolling over this phrase called the standard of excellence, and wanting to make my family and to make Hampton University proud of what they poured into me. And so whatever your reasons are for coming to Hampton University, I say give service to nation above self a chance. We gave it a chance, and all of us have stayed longer than we thought we would. And then when you render that service, just try to live up to the standard of excellence.
So you all spoke on a trend that's still fairly common today, which is young officers saying, I'm going to serve my 3 or 4 years and then get out. So given how successful you all have been in your careers, and kind of as rank and responsibility increased over the years, What are some ways in which you found an effective work, life, and family balance?
Leave that there for you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The president of the university shouldn't have to move the microphone, so she should just be able to talk.
It's the pirate battalion.
Hey, you know, it's not that I take exception to this notion of balance. What I've always believed and what's always helped me to be successful is being engaged. So right now, I don't have my cell phone in my pocket. I'm not looking down at my cell phone. I'm not checking messages. I'm wholly engaged in what I'm doing right now. When I get with my family, I'm 100% engaged with my family. When I'm at work, I'm 100% engaged in my work. Those things can shift, right? An emergency can happen. My 13-year-old son could say, hey, I was going to jump out the window because I didn't have my key. And I knew I was going to get back in, true story. Son jumps out the window, hurts his ankle, they call me at work. Well, guess what? I've got to now shift. I can't be balanced between work and taking my son to the emergency room. I've got to be wholly engaged in that. So what I would commit to you is to give this some thought. How about if I look at the things that I'm doing every day, and whenever I'm giving myself to that thing, I'm going to be 100% engaged. If I'm having a conversation with you, I should be looking you in the eye. I should be all engaged on you. We've all been in a conversation with someone where they're doing this. Hey, Janine, it's great to see you again. Oh, there's T-Ham. I got to get over there to T-Ham here. There's Monica and Kevin. Hey, so how you been? That's not being engaged. Take the time when you're in a place or beset by certain situations in your life to be wholly engaged in them. When I talk to my wife, I'm 100% engaged with her, because if I'm not, she will snatch me up. I've learned these things over 28 years of marriage, that I need to pay attention to her. But just give that some thought. Balance is tough. Balance is tough. The few science classes I took when I was here, I wasn't trying to get away from calculus. It was logic and chemistry for me. Mr. Roberts down here is talking, Mr. Clements was talking about getting away from calculus. I was trying to get away from logic in a chemistry class, okay? Balance is tough. Balance is very tough. You've got to move things in and out. But being engaged costs you nothing other than the intention necessary to see that thing through. So,
I'll pile on to the balance discussion as well. And the way that I chose to approach this issue of balance is looking at life in a longer term sense. There are periods where there really is no such thing as balance. It's 24/7. And so if I could use your academic year as an example, when you first get to school, the instructors typically give you sort of a summation of what happened the previous year and then sort of give you a ramp up. But then as you approach midterms, you've got to study even harder. Sometimes you've got to pull all-nighters, and when you've got a special project. But then after midterms, and after the special project is done, then you can afford to reestablish a period in your life here at the university where you're a little bit more balanced. And so it's not that you're going to have balance every day. I'm only going to spend 8 hours doing this today. I'm going to take 3 hours every night to study. I'm going to make 2 hours for dinner. I'm going to have 5 hours to spend some time with my friends. There are days where you're going to spend 24 hours getting your work done. But then there are also those times when you can take a full day off and spend more time with your friends. And so I tend not to try and look at balance as what's got to happen all the time, every time. And so as I look at my life, there are periods where it was just at an absolute peak. When I deployed for 15 months to Iraq, like most people during Operation Iraqi Freedom, which most of these professionals are participating in, how can you talk about life balance when you deploy for 15 months and everything else at home is still going? But when I get back, I try and take those 2 or 3 weeks of leave to reestablish some semblance of balance. Now, on a daily basis as the president, as you might imagine, very, very, very busy. But I've already carved out 2 evenings during the week where I'm going to be eating dinner at home with my wife. And Sunday, as has always been the case, is family day. We're going to go to church. We're going to spend some time together in the afternoon. So what I encourage you to do is to look at the periods in your academic career and life, find out where those natural break points are, and treat them very deliberately. Plan a 3-day period where perhaps you can get a little bit more rest than you have, but realize that when duty calls, when it's time to study, then I've got to ramp up and do those. Let me take one pause, if I could. I'm going to take a point of presidential privilege, if I might. And there's a young man sitting in the audience that I have to recognize. And so many of y'all heard about a very, very difficult accident that happened in Hampton in our aviation program on the 6th of October, right? And one of the 2 of the young men involved in the crash were critically injured and were in critical condition. And I had a chance to go visit them in the hospital along with the First Lady. We canceled classes that Friday, which most of y'all remember. And we had a prayer service at noon that day, and we were very, very concerned about him returning back to full health. His name is Ashton Burton, and although Ashton has gone through some very, very difficult times, I'm happy to announce that after all of that tragedy and physical therapy and multiple surgeries, Ashton returned to school yesterday, and he's here present with us this morning at this discussion. So Ashton, if you would come up if you could. So let's give this young man a round of applause. So this is from the National Hampton Alumni Association and the entire Hampton University student body. And just wanted to say welcome back to school. Let's give them another round. All right, have a seat. Mom is here this morning as well. Mom, thank you. Give her a round of applause.
All right, so not very good at speeches and thank you messages, but during my time in recovery in hospital and rehab and all that stuff, a lot of students, staff have come to visit me, give me shirts and stuff. But the main thing was that they were still thinking about me. Obviously, physically, when I was ready to come, I didn't want to come back, but the people at Hampton really have made it easy to want to come back. It's really more than I can really ask for, because the support that I've gotten is insane. So I'm gonna keep it short, but yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who thought about me, kept me in your prayers. So I'm back. I'm gonna keep going back. I what I've been doing. When I can, I'm gonna get back in the skies, continue flying. That's what I want to do. I just want to say thank you, and yeah.
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
Okay, so I think the discussion was
kind of how you find an effective work-life balance.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple thoughts, and it'd be very similar to the thoughts that were given. It's tough to balance a military career with your family. What I will tell you, it's about making the time count. And you can be at home and you can sit on the couch, or you can be engaged with your significant other, your kids. Last winter when it was snowing, my 11-year-old wanted to go sledding. It was cold out there, and my bones are old, but I went out there and I went sledding with her. One of the benefits we all get in the military once you're commissioned is 30 days of leave. Use it. Don't clean the garage on your day of leave. Go do something with your kids, with your family. Give them some memories. We've been blessed to do a couple cross-country moves, and instead of doing a 3 or 5 day sprint cross-country, we made it a 2.5 week journey, and we got to see the beauty of this country. We got to do it together, and those are memories that my kids will cherish. My 2 older kids have been to 49 states. They keep getting after me about why we haven't been to Hawaii yet. But when they talk to their friends haven't seen the things that they've done. They haven't done the things that they've done. And so, you know, as they're preparing to go to college and all that, and they're writing their applications, one of the things they talk about is being a military kid and what a blessing it's been for them. A blessing for them to help their parents serve, a blessing for them to see how great this country is, and a blessing to learn a lot of things. So take advantage of every moment you have with your family. That's the way you'll keep things balanced.
I've been a failure at work-life balance if you ask my wife. So I must go through her eyes. General Brunson, listen to him. My wife calls me a workaholic. So that's what I have to succumb and believe. That's what I've been, a workaholic. General Williams, thank you for uplifting me, because General Brunson had me feeling really bad until you started speaking about, you know, the work effort and then the break, because that's how it is with me. Right now, I'm in heavy lifting. Although I'm a JROTC instructor, I take it very serious. I take it more serious than most JROTC instructors. It's a reason why my program is the type of program that I have. You know, we have led the nation to Army ROTC scholarships. This past year, we had 17 scholarships. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my students that enlist in the military. And I take my job very serious, no matter what the job is. So right now, I'm going through a period of heavy lifting where we had a Nimitz mobile asset come. Naval Recruiting Command dropped it on me at the last minute within 2 weeks. We had grades coming up. I was already scheduled to take students to a college fair in New Jersey for tomorrow. This came up, military weekend. I'm here today, going back tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm on a bus with 50 kids going up to New Jersey for the college fair. I come back, have an inspection on the 2nd of December. Then I'm going off for a week with my family. My father-in-law's 80th birthday, and then we have Christmas holidays, and that's going to be the valley, and that's typically how it is for me. I have peaks and valleys. So, General Williams, thank you for uplifting me. Without even describe that, and I can share that with my wife. But with what everyone has said, you have to determine how it is going to be for you, what path you're going to choose. I will tell you that when I left Hampton, failure was not an option. And that's what I tell my cadets. Failure is not an option. It's not how you start, it's how you finish strong. So I was a college program student here. All throughout I was a college program student. I'm one of the few from that era that made it to the rank of 05. We don't have anyone who's made flag out of our ROTC unit. We have several 06s. But although I was a college program student, I was not going to fail once I got to the ship. Failure just simply was not an option. And no matter where I am, that's how I pursue things. Failure is not an option.
So, as the only person that can have a baby on this panel, let me tell you, you can do it and you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. So I have 2 kids. I have a freshman at Howard University, and I have a junior. I know, right? You can have some rough conversation in that house. And I have a junior at Yale. And that was intentional. And the way we did that is plan. Have a plan and have a plan to change the plan all the time. What's the plan? When am I going to get a baby in there? When in my career can I step away, have that child, give that child what it needs, and get back on track? And you have to plan and be intentional about that. So I would say that getting the advice about having those really crucial conversations with your partner, but then somebody also that you trust. When can I do that? When am I going to get my advanced degree? Because in the military these days, a bachelor's trying to make a flag officer or star is not going to get it. When am I going to get that advanced degree? How do I fit that in? And then how do I make sure that my kids are successful and good humans ready to serve their country in whatever way they would like to do? So start now, writing down those goals, thinking about when you want to get that in and how that works. And then the piece that General Brunson talked about, being able to compartmentalize, and that's what I call it. I'm a compartmentalize. I'm big about the holidays. I want to make sure that I have all the house decorated and I'm done my shopping early. So I'm gonna compartmentalize and make sure I can focus to get that in. But I do know that there are other things I'm gonna have to do to get focused on. If you know that Maryland, we had our elections this week and we had the first black the first black governor in Maryland, Wes Moore, who is also an former Army officer. And first one veteran serving as a governor in 60-some years, so in Maryland. So this is going to be a really good time, but the Maryland National Guard has to plan the inauguration event, so we're big into that. So compartmentalize to make sure I can get those inauguration events in, and we have a successful inauguration in January, just as an example. So that's what I'll say about work-life balance. You can have it all, just not at the same time, and you have to have a plan. And then you can't be so wed to the plan that you're not able to shift and make a change to that plan and continue on.
So just one wrap-up comment to this portion of the discussion from my perspective. You've heard some great perspectives, but I hope you've taken a couple of common themes about this. And one is about being intentional about how you spend your time. So when you study, for example, you're going to get more done in 2 to 3 hours of concentrated, focused study that gives you time to do other things than you are sort of half studying and wasting time. And so they've all talked about being focused and being compartmentalized. If you're going to be successful, you need to learn that trait at Hampton University. The ability to focus when you need to manage your time, and to be intentional about what you're doing at any particular moment in time. Learn that early. It will serve you well for the rest of your life.
Thank you. So at this time, we would like to open the floor to any questions that you may have for our panel members.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Pierce. I'm a first-year biochemistry major, material science engineering minor from New Jersey, and I'm an MS1. And my question is, you guys talked about how you learn to balance now, but obviously you guys were sitting in this chair a couple years back. How did you guys learn to balance? How did you guys learn to balance your time, PT? If you guys did color guard, extracurricular activities, alpha, fraternities, all the sororities, and all of that.
Yeah, it starts with things that I
General Brunson noticed you mentioned alpha.
She's still got bills due. And I'm not the president of this university. Please sit back down. Thanks, first of all, for your question. I appreciate you being willing to stand up like that. It takes a lot to ask the first question, Mr. President. It starts with me with this. And if you kind of look at us up here, we're always writing things down, right? And Janine just talked recently, as she made her points, it's about getting those things down and making sure that she can compartmentalize, as she says. But it's important to write things down. And back in the day, before cell phones became what they are now, you used to have flip phones, right? And you'd set an alarm to get up in the morning. So I knew I was going to make it to PT on time because football season was over and I had to start coming to PT. So I couldn't be late. There was no sleeping in. But we used to put calendars up on the wall. You used to be able to go to the registrar's office and they would have these stacks of calendars. And I would put these calendars all over the place. I would have one inside my closet, you know, there at James Hall, and then there'd be one up on the wall, like right by the door, so I remember to do things. You have to commit these things to a piece of paper, even if it's just a plain blank sheet of paper. Like right now, everybody should have a notebook and a pen on. Everybody should. General Arnold has got a notebook and a pen. You always should have these things so you can write these things down. And it's also a good follow-up to the investment that people are making in you. Like I wrote standard of excellence down in my book because my president said that as he was talking. But you want to be able to commit these things, but it starts with writing it down so you can see it. And what's important to you, you'll make sure you get on that calendar so you don't miss out, right? Like taco night at the dining facility, which is way better than the dining facility when I was here. Way, way better. But you want to make sure that you do that, okay? Just simply make sure you get yourself, bless you, get a good calendar and you capture those things that you have to do to keep yourself on task.
Things have shifted from our time. We didn't have cell phones, we didn't have electronic calendars. The whole calendar thing is around. I use my cell phone now literally to be my watch. I don't wear a watch. This is my watch. This is my calendar. I have reminders set for basically, and I'm older now, so I can feel my memory slipping. This is my reminder right here. Schedules are packed, no doubt. Being an ROTC student, you're not average. You're not normal. Most students here can't keep up with the level of activity that you all have. They just can't. When I was here, as I told you, I was in the Navy Reserves, ROTC, I had college work study. Who has that type of pace on this campus right now? I studied, I pledged, I did all those things. So it's unsatisfactory for you all not to be able to do the same thing. But the key is, in fact, that calendar. And there should be no excuses about it. And a lot of cadets, midshipmen, may try to have excuses about the pace, the calendar. But if we did it, you can do it. It hasn't changed.
I couldn't agree more with the other panel members. What I will tell you is you need to have a plan, you need to have a schedule, and then follow it. And make that time count. If you have 2 hours focused for studying and you're checking your Instagram or you got a text or you're talking with somebody, you're wasting that time that you could have spent towards it. And what I will tell you, all of the activities that you have, you're learning those work habits and that way of thinking that's going to make you successful as an officer. Because I will tell you, as busy as you are now, when you get to your first unit and you need to get qualified and all that, everything you learned here at Hampton, this time management, how to be focused, how to set schedules, how to have goals, those things are what's going to make you successful. So it's hard. But much like being in the gym and working out, you're building those muscles. And those muscles are going to allow you to be successful when you serve as an officer.
Let me just add, you hit on a thread, and that was going to the gym or working out, doing PT. That PT is real. So less than 23% of the population will and can serve. A large part of that is their ability to be physically fit and healthy. So you are in a minority if you make it through and then are able to commission, you are in a minority. So I will tell you, be intentional about it. I'm not the greatest at PT, but you got to do it. So, John Brunson will tell you, they ran me all around this campus because that's just the way it is. So right now, unfortunately, the Army's been in a lull for physical fitness and PT, and it's a bad thing because when it comes back and we need to be ready to go to Ukraine or wherever it is, then I'm fearful that our soldiers aren't ready. So make that an important part of your life. And it will also clear your mind and give you some time to focus on something else. Yourself, your body, your mental agility, those things make you a much better person if you take the time to focus on that piece about you, your health, your PT, and the way you eat. So make that part of what you do every day.
A couple more questions from the audience.
Excuse me one moment. A quick tool that I use every command I go to. It's always work. my first 6 months, I go hard. When you compare me to anyone else, there's no way anyone will be better than me my first 6 months. That sets the standard of excellence. That sets the unit CO, particularly you go into your initial tour. They will look at you and they will compare you. Even being a first year midshipman or first year cadet, and those who are thriving for scholarships, you're in competition. So are you. And I know they tell you here you don't have the PT. So when come time to be recommended for the scholarship, who gets the nod in competition? Right. Lieutenant Colonel? The one that comes to PT in the morning, or the one who opts not to attend PT? Because you have to be ranked. So wherever I go, my first 6 months, very intentional. I'm going very strong, I'm going very hard. Then I'll go into a lull, perhaps, but the standard expectation, they look at me differently. I'm actually a reserve officer, full-time support. What we call TARP, we used to call TARP in the Navy, going back to that term. I would never tell them that I was a reserve officer, although I did 22 years active duty. And my fitness report, officer report, was always off-cycle from the regular Navy. And I would not say anything about when my fitness report was due until I had gone through that period of going hard. Then I would tell my command, my fitness report is due. And they would not believe that I was a reserve officer because they have that perception. Perception is non-intense reality. And if I would report to the ship or whatever the command is and tell them up front I'm a reserve officer, they would have that negative perception. But since I would wait until my fitness report would be due, they would look at me and be in disbelief, total halt. I went through my whole career applying it. So I want to share that with you. Wherever you go, whatever you do, wherever you start. Although I say it's not how you start, it's how you finish, you do want to try to start strong too, as well.
Hey, let me jump on that real quick, because my experience in the Army is I could not have a lull. I could not. I could not. And so what I did was, if I felt like there was going to be a lull, I found somebody that was going where I was going. Okay? To this day, one of the lulls, if you will, in my career was I was working at HRC and I was doing a lot of things on Human Resources Command. I was doing a lot of things on computers, not my strong suit. But there was a guy there named Ron Clark. He was a captain. He is now a lieutenant general. And I paced myself off him thinking that I'm not really good at this. But if I get with this cat and just do what he does, I can move forward. I'll keep pace with somebody that's going where I want to be. You don't ever pace off of somebody who's slower than you, do you? You want to pace off someone who's going faster than you are so they can pull you in their wake. You all have the ability to be wake creators. You need to create a wake in such a way that people can come behind you and keep pace with where you are. You cannot afford to have a lull. What you can afford to do is allow yourself to be pulled on by someone else or do the pulling yourself. That's the standard of excellence. And I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you this strongly, because you'll be known by the results that you produce. Whether those results are good or whether those results are bad. No one cares about a component. What I care about is, I gave you a mission, Preston. Did you complete the mission? That's what I care about. That's the standard in which I'm evaluated every day. And that standard is high. There are 4 corps in the United States Army. I command 1. Nobody cares where I went to school at. Nobody cares what color I am. What they care about is that I produce results every day. What I care about is that when you look out there at your Army, the United States Army, you know Brunson's on the job. You know you can count on Brunson. You want to know why? Because I'm going to get it done. Because I'm going to find somebody that's going where I'm going, and I'm going to pace off them. I look left, and I look right, and I see those other Corps commanders, and I say, how can I'm not in competition with them, but how can I achieve the admirable results that they've achieved? I look at Chris Donahue, who's commanding a corps in Ukraine right now, and I say, how can I do for my corps what he's managed to do for them? There are a multitude of ways you can go in your life. And I don't take exception to what you said. That worked for you, Clem, and context is king with everything, okay? I'm contextually sharing with you what I go through every day. I refuse to be seen as less than. I don't see myself as greater than, but I fight hard every day for equal to, because I just want a chance. An opportunity, there's a hair's breadth of difference between an opportunity and a failure. A hair's breadth. And I always want to end up on the side where I'm seizing on every opportunity that's put before me, which means that you can't have time. You have to continue to press into it. So.
You can't help but notice the passion with which we all talk about our lives and our careers, regardless of context or perspective. One of the things I want you to take away from today's discussion and about your experience at Hampton University is the level of internal commitment and passion with which we serve, and the belief in what it is that we do. And so whether you go into the military or not, what I want you to understand and take away is that your Hampton experience and your experience in ROTC is a heart and soul experience. So yes, being in ROTC and the things that you learn are certainly going to help make you successful. But 90% of what's going to make you successful in life doesn't have anything to do with what you're going to learn academically. It's about what's inside of you. And what these lady and gentlemen are hopefully imparting in you today is that part that's a part of the heart and soul. We speak this way because most of us got this from Hampton University. I didn't come to Hampton University feeling this way, but when I left, I knew that I was as good or better than anyone, and that I could do virtually anything. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the heart and soul of Hampton University, and it's what we want you to leave here with by when it's your time to go. Heart and soul.
So what's that, ma'am? All right, one more question.
Good morning. My name is Bishop Briggs. I'm a computer science major from West Virginia. My question was, what's some examples of some failures you had in your college career that you recovered from? Like, how did you recover from it?
What's the question?
Failures. He wants to know what failure you might have had in your college career, and how did you recover?
Janine, I'll let you answer that question.
So like I said, they ran me around this campus. Academically, I'm strong academically, no doubt about it. That wasn't a concern of mine. I was so concerned that that ROTC would set me back, that actually I ended up finishing a semester early and went on to go to work on the Hill my final semester. But where my struggle was being that officer who was able to do well at PT, hit my lanes training and be successful at that, making sure that I know how to do that I can represent the Pirate Battalion well. And so I spent many a day with our MS4s running, running around the campus and going to AP Hill. That was something I had to really work on to make sure that I could be successful. And so how did I address that? By continuing to work on it, by continuing to not take the feedback so personally that I wilted away or that I quit ROTC. No, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to even work harder to be good at what I'm doing, to be good at what my contemporaries are doing. So, they much better to me at tactics, if you will, much better than me. But they didn't have the stick-to-itiveness that I had. They didn't have maybe the ability to like adapt and overcome that I'm gonna have. And then, of course, opportunity and meeting the right people, having that mentorship and sponsorship certainly helps to go a long way. So I would say that from, just to wrap it up, academically, no problem. Being that four-year ROTC cadet, having to make sure that I have all those pieces together and being able to lead in that way as an Army officer is what I got out of being an ROTC. And coming out on this other side of that, being able to do that well enough to be a commander of the Maryland Army National Guard.
My junior year, after we went to summer camp, the 11th that year, went straight to airborne school as a cadet, and I twisted my ankle on the swing landing trainer in the saw pit. Many of you airborne soldiers out there know what I'm talking about. So I twisted my ankle and was unable to complete airborne training that summer. I subsequently went back my first summer on active duty and did complete it. But the feeling of coming back to the Pirate Battalion and Hampton University and not completing what you started, and feeling that you had let your battalion down and all of the people that invested in you was a very, very difficult experience. Quickly put it aside, went back to work, had a phenomenal senior year, and went on active duty and went back and completed airborne school. And so things will happen. How do you respond?
Academics. I don't know about the Army, but when it comes to the Navy, once you get to your first duty assignment, it's a training assignment. And the Navy retrains you no matter what your major is in college, whether it's engineering, science, math. I was a business major. The Navy spent 6 months retraining me in what we call the Supply Corps community. So ACT scores, SAT scores, ASVAB scores. I've been tracking scores and data with my kids now for 13 years. I have ASVAB scores figured out. I have students that have single-digit ASVAB scores who can't enlist in the military that receive commissions. True story. I have several. I can prove it. So I don't even believe in the whole test scores thing. I think test scores is a matter of access and discriminators to determine acceptance numbers. That's my personal thought. But I will tell you, when I say failure is not an option, it was not going to be an option for me to return back home and not continue forward. The last thing I told my mother is my sister was 6 years ahead of me, and she graduated from North Carolina A&T, $35,000 job offer, turned it down, came back home. I remember asking her, what are you thinking? How can you help us? I told my mother, you don't have to worry about coming home. I was talking to my sister this week. There used to be a song about westbound number 9, gonna leave something behind. I used to walk around the house singing that song. I was leaving, never returning. I left, and I have not returned since then for an extended period, except for maybe summer break. But when it comes to academics, I don't consider myself that I was smart. I was a hard worker. I did focus when time to focus. I focused on whatever was necessary at the time. So this whole academic thing I've had some brilliant students come through Suitland, but my best students that have come through Suitland High School have been those that were dedicated, hardworking, and lived up when I would tell them that, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Failure is not an option. Work hard, lean on your mentors and sponsors. Call me back if you need help, need support, need assistance, need a letter of recommendation. I write letters of recommendations for sororities and fraternities. Lean on people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Just apply yourself and focus. When it comes to the majors and academics, I tell my students this: go to a school where there are 3 majors that you want to be major in. I was a computer science major, fell back on business. My next option was major in PE. I'm just telling you the truth. When it comes to commissions, you need a commission, right? You need a degree. Once you have a degree, nobody cares what the degree is for the most part. Navy talks about it a lot, but if you have a degree, you can get a commission. The most important thing to me that you learn in ROTC is associated with leadership. I was not in any JROTC in high school. All my friends were in the Boost program, and they had 1 year of enlisted experience, and they had Boost Prep. I felt very subordinate to them because I was 18. They were all 19 that had the one year prep school. And I always felt like I was beneath them, you know. But I always wondered, why were they ahead of me? Well, they had one year education ahead of me. They really did. And so when the general talks about keeping up, I was in their wake, and they were real smart. But I share to you, at the end of the day, my peers, I'm ahead of them. But they were smarter than me at that moment in time. It's not always about smarts. It's not always about that. It's about how you apply yourself, how you work, being dedicated, and focusing on the goal, and being the best that you can be, being the absolute best that you can be.
Well, my brush with failure during college was calculus. It hit me like a brick wall. And for the first time in my life, math I'd always been very good at, but for the first time I did not understand what I was doing. And I got to the midterms and I was failing. I talked to my academic advisor and he told me I wasn't going to graduate. And I realized I had to do something different, that what got me there wasn't going to get me where I needed to go. And I had to swallow some pride. I had to ask for help. I had to look at how I was studying, and I had to relearn how I was studying. And I learned that I had to work even harder. And I learned that for some of these tests, I might have to go to the library and do problems for 8 hours in a row just to get that muscle memory. And I truly believe, looking back now 35 years later, that it was that brush with failure, knowing that my career hung by just a string, but it forced me to learn how to overcome, how to do the things that I didn't think I could do. And the lessons I learned from that are what got me through the 4 years at the Coast Guard Academy and have helped me go for the last 31 years.
All right, so thank you again to all of our panel members for making time to be with us and for all that you have done and continue to do. So at this time, we invite Lieutenant Colonel Jala to make any remarks.
Hold on, before you finish, I'll just again, I'll add one more thing. And so I can't tell you what to believe, but I'll tell you how I got to where I am. If you don't already have some sort of spiritual aspect of your life, spiritual fitness is what we would call it in a military sense, you will find that it will be an important component of your success. There are some things that you cannot do for yourself. And so I would encourage you to take a look at the spiritual fitness aspect of your life. I'm not promoting any one particular way of doing it. It may be individual to all of you. But all of these people who have served and have been on the battlefield will tell you that in moments of crisis and when people get hurt, the two most common phrases you hear are medic and oh God. It's the first thing that people say, regardless of what their beliefs are. And so I would encourage you to, in addition to the academic experience that you're having at Hampton University, the technical competence you're going to get from your ROTC experience, the leadership training that you're going to get, the heart and soul that I mentioned, to work on some spiritual component of your life. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. How y'all doing today?
Great.
Yes, sir.
I want to throw something out that just to expand this out a little bit in terms of work. where we are today, because we should always be looking to expand ourselves. And all of us have heard that our military services had a tough recruiting year this last year. We've had a tough recruiting year. Yeah. And so you may say, well, how does that apply to me? Well, it applies to all of us, because we all should be challenged to figure out how to expand what we do, how to expand the territory that we walk on, that we act on, that we do perform our mission on. And all of us, if we're going to have a strong military on well into the future, we got to fill it with men and women who are committed, who believe in it, and who are willing to take the chance to do what we need to do. So recruiting and getting our military at the strength that we need to get it to is something that can apply to all of us. It can apply to all of us. So when you start thinking about how you can do more, how you can add, how you can be a plus-up factor all the time, and start thinking about other folks that are your age, that need to be inspired, and that can do things in the military just the way that you can do. So as you find out you can do more, you can inspire other folks to do more. They can be your age, or what have you, or younger than you, or older than you. But we got to think about building our military and bringing in men and women who are going to allow everybody to be successful in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So good morning, everyone. I am Lieutenant Colonel Jasmine Jalla. I am the Professor of Military Science here at Hampton University over the Army of And today has been absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. I would like you all to take a moment to just give a round of applause for our panel members today. And a round of applause for all the veterans and our special guests that are in attendance today, please. I'm going to keep it short, but I would just like to leave you all with this. If you all don't take anything else away from today, know that Hampton University has a very rich military history and legacy, a legacy that you all are a part of. Be proud of that. Always keep that with you. Our network is strong. And it will be several of you one day that'll be right back up here sitting on panels like this that'll have very similar stories. I came in on a scholarship. I came in, thought I was going to do 3 or 4 years, and now look at me, the 1-star, the Rear Admiral, the 2-star, the 3-star General, and you will be sitting in these same seats giving back to cadets and midshipmen that look just like you all. So just keep that in mind, that we have a strong legacy, and I just want you all to be proud of that. They took their time to come here to pour into you all, and I hope that you all just really absorb everything that they provided today, and you will take that forward to just be the better version of yourselves as we continue on with our training here and throughout the school year and going into our summer camps and things like that. So thank you all so very much for being here today. We truly appreciate that. And on behalf of the Pirate Battalion, we would like to present you all each with just a small token of appreciation so that you all can have something to take with you all. So here you are, sir.
Swag bag.
Swag bag. And then we have the coveted Hampton University coin.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Here you are, sir.
Swag bag.